Today is the day. It's Liberation Day for the US, and you can expect major market volatility. And you can actually see the market is currently trying to price what could be coming in, right? You can see over here the market de-risking into the event. It is quite uncertain, but we're going to go through a couple of things in today's show to try and bring a little bit more clarity to you and the market and what's the most likely outcome, how you should be positioned going into Liberation Day. Trump will be speaking live, and you can expect it 100% is going to move the markets in a big way. And then there should be some trade opportunities. So smash the like button, hit the bell notification, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and let's get straight into the show content. I first want to start off with the stock market. We have to always look at the stock market first because this is ultimately the biggest driver of the crypto markets. And I think this is the easiest way for any of you out there to think about the markets and look at the markets to protect yourself, right? And the reason that I say that is because you can see the stock market is clearly broken trend, right? We've spoken about this a lot. We spoke about it while it was happening over there, where you've now officially taken out that low. You've created a new swing low. You've lost the 200-day moving average, and you've attempted to push up. You hit the resistance zone. You came back down in a strong way. Yes, you're putting in a little bit of a high low, but really until such time as you can break and hold above this resistance level over here, which means clearing $58,000, you can't really get too bullish, which means that straight off the bat, the better trade to be in over here is going to be a cash position leading into the so-called Liberation Day. And it's better to miss out some of the upside over here if price is going to move towards the upside. Remember, part of trading and investing is trying to find an edge within the market and to put the probabilities in your favor. Now, the trend oftentimes helps you to identify where those probabilities will remain, and the trend is towards the downside, which means you're much more likely to do something like this. Even if Trump says something bullish in Liberation Day, you're probably going to be met with that resistance over there, and it's probably going to lead into a swing failure pattern where prices fail to close above that resistance level, and therefore you're looking for continuation to the downside, right? So if there's anything exciting and bullish that comes out of Liberation Day, I would expect that it's probably met with a failure to close above, right? So you could initially move up in a big way into the zone, but you'll probably see that bleed out over the coming days and weeks down into the target zone, which is 50% of this wick on a weekly scale. That's taking it down to 5,200. That is, our, let's call it, first target, right? If you do break below that level, we'll reevaluate, but we're expecting at the very, very least a massive bounce off of this zone over here. And I'd rather remain patient for either to hit this zone over here, so you come into that zone, or B, a reclaim of some of these key levels, and then I may start to get long once again. So that's your stock market. That's what we're looking at over there. Quick look at the QQQ. You can see creating new swing lows. This is part of the tech sector. So lower lows and lower highs is the name of the game, and this can easily cascade down, as we said, anywhere between 430 and 414 is your first targets. And if it gets really, really bad, you're going to drop down to about 400, and you can expect that Bitcoin is going to be most correlated to this, although in the last day or so, of course, Bitcoin actually held up a little bit better than the QQQ. But generally speaking, as the broader trend, day after day, week after week, for the most part, crypto is trading very, very similar to the QQQ, which is the Nasdaq over there. So when it comes to Liberation Day, it does look like, with regards to this whole tariff narrative that's currently unfolding, you can see over here highlighted the White House has not reached a firm decision on their tariff plan. What that means is that this is still open for discussion, and they're probably going to continue to use this. Remember, the markets hate uncertainty, and that's part of the reason why you see the market moving into a risk-off environment. The other key thing that I think I have to note from a technical perspective over here, and this is a dead simple, any of you can utilize this over here. What you may notice, let's just quickly grab some of our tools over here. So let's just quickly highlight this. We'll mark this out over here. If we grab our tools, and I'm just going to make that a bit bigger for you. There we go. You can see price, of course, coming down. And what do you have over here? You have a little bit of a bear flag, which is forming, right? Which theoretically, that bear flag is already broken out. Now, we can even take it on a conservative target over there and clone that. Where's the measured move on this breakdown? As you can see, that would break you down to about 413, right? So the technicals oftentimes are more accurate and predictive than the fundamentals, right? So there it is, the breakdown of the bear flag, which is already confirmed. Any backtest and failure to get back above these breakdown levels over here means that this pattern is most likely going to play out, and that means you're looking for continuation lower. So keeping it open over here, with the White House not having reached a firm decision. You have seen other countries now starting to play ball into the US hand, right? Just in Israel, eliminates all tariffs on US goods to avoid President Trump's reciprocal tariffs. Remember, he's matching other countries' tariffs essentially 1-for-1, right? So if Israel have tariffs or high taxes against the US, well, the US are going to offer or at least match those tariffs, right? And consequently, they've removed that. So playing into the US's game plan over there. So we'll see what they do next, what is coming up next, right? So if you look over here from 𝗪𝗛𝗡𝗪, they say Bessent told lawmakers today that tomorrow's tariffs are a cap, right? So this is as high as it can go. The amounts announced, which is coming out later today for the tariffs, will be the highest that it goes. Countries could then take steps to bring the tariffs down in the form of some sort of a negotiation. Either way, uncertainty, markets hate uncertainty. Therefore, the bias still remains towards the downside, and you do need to be very, very careful. Going on to Bitcoin over here, you can see same story, right? Similar to what I just mentioned on both the NASDAQ as well as the S&P 500. Really, I wouldn't get too excited until such time as A, you hit this level. Remember, I gave the A-B scenario over there on the stock market. So A, you take the trade, the long trade coming into key support over here, or B, you take the trade if you can break above the resistance levels. Everything in between over here is highly risky, very, very choppy, and more likely to follow in alignment with the trend, which is towards the downside. You can see price struggling over here at these moving averages, right? Now, again, I just want to be clear. It's, of course, possible that you see a big move up and you reclaim these levels, but it's about playing the probabilities into your favor, right? If you do this enough over time, you will do very, very well. Of course, there's going to be some people out here today that are going max long 50x leverage, 100x leverage, and maybe, just maybe, they get a bone thrown their way where this pumps towards the upside, reclaims some of these key levels, and then they're going to go all over the Twitter timeline and post how wonderful they are, right? But what about the other 10,000 times that they called for a bull market and got absolutely rinsed? That's the things you need to think of, right? So these are the current risks. The risks suggest that prices are more likely to drop towards the downside. And you can see this cycle has started to deviate, right? This is becoming quite a severe deviation. If we zoom in on this current level over here, I'm going to pop the purple on and off the screen over there. The purple should be trading, if it's been anything like the price cycles, in alignment with where the orange and the green is, right? Those are your prior two cycles, 2021, 2017. Right now, this is deviating away, and it's better seen when you look at the total cycle, right? So we've had small deviations here and there, but this is starting to become pretty severe. So I think that the best game plan over here is to still wait for confirmation of a high, a break back into the trend over there. Otherwise, maintain a cautious stance and at least expect that probably this is going to continue to deviate away from the norm. Now, I had a long discussion with the 𝗪𝗛𝗡 members yesterday live on our Zoom session, and what I discussed with them is how, my trading system gave multiple false short signals throughout this crypto cycle, but using confluent factors and other things that we look at, we're able to negate that and not listen to it, right? We voided that signal and we said that we're not going to take it too seriously, and we maintained our long positions throughout despite two false signals within this overall crypto cycle. This is now the third signal, which we said we're not going to take as a false signal. Remember, I have exited the market entirely, and the reason why is, well, what happens if this is a shorter cycle? The prior times didn't line up with the timing factors, and it would have been too soon for the cycle to top. Now we're about 80% of the way through the cycle. As you can see, these cycles typically last about 1,000 to 1,100 days. And so far, in terms of how far we're into this cycle right now, we are day 875 in, measured from the cycle low, right? So could it be that the cycle ends 875 days in as opposed to finishing 1,000 to 1,100 days into the cycle? Absolutely, I have to entertain that it's possible. It's not that likely, but it's very, very possible. And this is why we have to maintain a very cautious stance, just to outline my thought process and how I've gone about things so that you guys totally understand, right? So in the short term, yes, there is some liquidity moving towards the upside over here, $86,000. There's $35-ish million worth of liquidity in a low liquid environment. Price does tend to move towards that. And we spoke about a very small short squeeze yesterday, which was likely to take place, and it did, and was a proven short squeeze because you can see price came back down and faded that. So you still have the opportunity for a short squeeze over here. But the question that we always ask ourselves is, can price maintain at those levels? So if you get the short squeeze up into $86,000 and you hold that level, can you hold that level, right? And ultimately, even if you do, in this instance, it's not going to really help because you're still not going to break structure. You really need to get back higher above key levels, right? I would say the first level to reclaim is $88,000, and then you still need to get above that 90K zone, which you can see over here in pink, right? So you need to get back above this zone over here. And even that short squeeze into this is not really going to do too much, right? So that is the volume profile still assisting us and doing God's work with showing us where all the rejective zones are coming in. A decline in the volume, downsloping trend line, constant rejections, excitement coming in yesterday, but not even close to breaking through that level yet, not even close, right? And you can see, even if price were to short squeeze again today into that liquidity zone that we've highlighted around 86, it's pretty much just going to be met exactly at that trend line once again. So a lot that we need to look forward to, a lot that we need to still see happen before we can get excited with the markets, right? Daily exchange volume continues to decline over there, and we are seeing a slight divergence over here with price putting in high lows. But if we look at the CVD for spot as well as futures, this shows you, is there spot buying and what are the futures traders doing? Well, you can see this is putting in lower highs and lower lows, right? So it's downtrending, and that in the very, very short term, this is on a daily, has put in a bit of a divergence and an uptrend. So what's going to give first? That's what you need to ask yourself. Is spot buying and leverage buying going to step up to catch up with the at least the higher low that's formed in price over here? Or is it going to be that price is going to catch up with the downtrend in the spot and the CVD, meaning that you'd probably see something like this? Again, I always have to side with the trend and say that this is the most likely outcome. Whether it happens today or later on this week, that is still the most likely outcome. And you can see as well, if you go into our Whale Room Discord under the institutional charts and you click over there, what you'll find is you'll see that the deltas are starting to turn positive once again, showing that some longs are trying to open up directly into resistance once again. It's not significant, but it is a bit of at least longs that are building up in that region right there. Okay, 24-hour liquidation still relatively low. It did spike up a little bit to 288 the last couple of days and weeks. You know, we've been hanging around that 200 million mark. So starting to get a little bit exciting. People are getting edgy. People are ready to take trades, and you are seeing people step in at those key psychological levels, right? But still more longs getting liquidated than shorts, a little bit more, right? 166 million versus the 121 million. And you can see 24-hour volume did spike ever so slightly. 24-hour long to short ratio on the top over here, still sitting at about, even about 50-50 over there. So I guess get ready. You can prepare to start to take some of these trades. We'll go through altcoin requests as well. There's a couple more things that I want to talk about, like the USDT dominance. You can see the parallel channel, which is holding towards the upside over here. And I have marked out, let's just grab our highlighter tool, from the low that occurred over here into that key point that led to the move up. We measured from the low to the high, and we've marked out our fib levels, and we have the 0.382, which is coming in at 5.3% for the USDT dominance percentage, right? Holding support over there in bullish moves, which this is still in a bullish trend because it's, of course, putting in higher highs and higher lows, as you can see very, very clearly there, high highs and high lows. This is finding support over here. And if this does put in another spike towards the upside, that will lead to your next move towards the downside in Bitcoin and crypto. The earliest point at which I'm willing to get interested, which I also shared with the Whale Room members this morning, is if you start to break below these lows, right? This is your clear previous high low. Then you can say, maybe you've created a lower high, and if you break that down, you've now created a lower low. And then we can watch for any spike up over here into the next lower high and say that, maybe the trend is starting to shift towards the downside. And that will bring a flood of new money into the market. We need to see new money come into the market. We need to see liquidity come into the market. For the time being, while it's these low volume environments, get prepared, get ready, because at any moment there could be a big trade, right? A very, very big trade. Either you're going to get expansion and price is going to go to the downside, at which point we're looking to buy the dip, or alternatively, we're going to get volume coming into the market. We're going to break some of those key resistance areas, at which point you're also looking to buy the next high low. So For those of you that are new and haven't yet been part of the Crypto Banter fam, I do want to also mention over here, Femex is one place that you can fund your account, get ready to trade over there, because they are offering a very, very favorable sign-up bonus, right? Bonus rewards of up to 2,600 USDT. Use the link in the description below by doing something as simple as signing up and taking a very small trade. You will get $50 immediately just for doing that, right? And then you get a deposit rebate, 20% bonus on top of what you're depositing. It is linked in the description below over here. So there it is, Femex. Use that link over there. Join. No KYC required. Probably one of the biggest things over there. Absolutely no KYC required, right? Cool. Let's get into the rest of the content over here. Remember, we've still outlined that there's always a possibility that the altcoin market continues to get absolutely smashed, right? You can see it grinding into this level over here. This is where the prior altcoin seasons occurred, right? So I'm not advocating that that's going to happen yet. This could be a bit of a meme in the sense that, hits that level, get expansion towards the upside, altcoin season comes into play. Hits that level, get expansion to the upside, altcoin season comes into play. And once again, you're hitting that level. But the difference is now you're spending a lot of time into that level. And if you've done whale school, you'll know that I talk a lot about not all areas of support and resistance are built equally, right? What you find is that oftentimes horizontal levels are the most reliable and significant when it comes to trading, and diagonals are the least important. So when you divide others by BTC and you get a ratio, you can see this is the diagonal. Now, if that diagonal breaks, this could easily cascade price all the way down into this horizontal over here, which is therefore going to be your next major significant support. So what would that look like, right? Well, currently, when we first identified it, we said about 45% move. Now you got about a 39% move towards the downside. The only way that happens, I guess, is in a price capitulation environment, right? We're not in that zone yet, but you do have all the makings for something like that to take place, since you do have the tariff wars, which are currently underway. And you even have talks of World War III, right? I mean, it's creating a lot of fear within the market. We always do say buy the fear, but you need to buy the fear when you're at very, very key supports. Again, going back to Bitcoin, we are not at key support. We are in the middle of no man's land. Your key support comes in at $68,000 to $72,000, depending on the time when you hit that, right? Give or take, that's going to be your most significant support. So I think you're going to see a lot of important things playing out over the next couple of days and weeks. A lot of the altcoin charts are going to have the opportunity to hold support and bounce. If they don't and they lose that support, then you're going to understand that we may actually be in a bear market. I think it's a little bit preemptive and too soon to suggest that. But if these altcoins do lose these key support levels, then you know that we probably are moving into a bear market, at which point this is going to capitulate all the way down to the lows. And then, maybe it's a mini bear market. Maybe it's a short bear market. We reaccumulate over the course of, April, May, June, July, and we can run it up into Q3, Q4, attempting back at the highs, right? I'm not going to be one of those YouTubers that say I absolutely know with 100% certainty what's happening. And anyone that does, you should probably block and unfollow, because nobody knows, right? No true trader understands really where things are going to go, knows where things are going to go. No crystal balls over here, right? Just probabilities. Trend is the easiest way to gain an edge in terms of understanding the probabilities and your directional bias, right? So we'll keep an eye out on this. But we always do look towards key pivot levels and areas where we could maybe see some bounces, right? So one of the things that I'm looking at, and we'll give a shout out to Josh, the navigator, of course, in our Discord, one of our very own coaches and traders over there. And he looks at the pitchforks, right? Why am I bringing this up, right? We know that ETH BTC has been absolutely smashed, absolutely annihilated. It's coming into the midline of that pitchfork, right? Now, historically, these pitchforks find support when you hit one of these key areas, most notably either the lows, the mid-range, or the highs. So you can treat this as a range that's just slightly slanted, right, as opposed to horizontal. Again, I don't give super high weighting to diagonals. I give much higher weighting to horizontals. So if you can line these up with key horizontals and it meets simultaneously at a diagonal like a pitchfork midline, this becomes very, very significant. So according to this, you're coming directly into that level right now. That's 0.02145 on the ETH BTC ratio. Next, right, if we have a look over here at ETH BTC on a lower time frame, like the 1 day, you can see that there is a little bit of wick demand that's coming in right at that zone. So we'll see if it tags this level or not. What does that mean on the 4-hour time frame? Well, you're looking for something like this, right? In the short term, probably one more move towards the downside. And for the USD pair, you would be looking at a move possibly sweeping that low, which previously occurred. Your midline lines up on the USD pair at 1746. So we'll see 1746. Let's see if that level holds, and we can make Josh a hero, right? If it holds, he can become a hero, right? If you guys want to get into the Whale Room Discord for free, this is what you can do. You can go through to Whale Room over here. Make sure you go through to, okay, I'm glad to see they verified us. So the account is Whale Room Trades. You can either go to my Twitter account linked in the description, or you can just look this up. Make sure it has the blue tick. That's how you know it's the correct one. Follow it over there, and then look out, right? At any point during this week, we're going to drop a code, right? Some point during this week. I'm not going to say when. Keep an eye out on the Twitter account. At some point during this week, a code will be dropped. Whoever receives that code, you will receive 1 free month for the Whale Room Discord, right? So go through, follow that if you do want to get in. For those of you that know you want to be in there and you're willing to just pay, well, it's linked below, right? You can jump in at any point in time. So let's have a look over here. Here's Solana. For example, Solana is one that's coming into a very, very, very key support, right? If we run this to the left-hand side and we have a look at the price action that's unfolded on Solana, we know Solana, one of the crowd favorites, right? You can see major support, consolidates, loses that, almost tested there as resistance, deviates that level. So already you have over here a little consolidation move up. That's touch point 1, touch point 2, touch point 3, touch point 4 is the deviation, touch point 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Can you guys believe this? At 13. We've spent a lot of time in this region. 13 times, right? What that means is if you begin to lose this level over here, you can very quickly cascade all the way down to $77 to $80, right? That would be the area of interest that I'm looking at. So I do think that would lead to a substantial bounce. And if it was really bullish somehow and was going to reclaim these levels, then you would, on a high time frame, consider this entire move over here a deviation. The reclaim back of 120 would be the move towards the upside. So given that you've touched this level around a dozen times, I don't have high hopes. I must be honest with you. I do not have high hopes that Solana is going to hold this level. I definitely think it's much more likely to break down. Okay, and there will be bounces along the way, right? You'll probably do something like that, a bounce of mid-range, move back towards the highs, lower high, and then ultimately you'd see some sort of a capitulation. So am I a buyer of Solana over here? No. Definitely not. I'm not willing to buy something like that. Remember, in trading, the more times, think of it like this. Think of like if you could bounce a steel ball, right, on ice, what would happen, right? You would hit that ice, it would bounce a little bit with a lower high. You'd hit it again, a lower high, and then you would start to crack that ice, and then eventually it would fall through. The more touch points, the more times you knock into a certain level, the high probability is that you're going to fall through that level. Dozen tests of this level is not giving me much confidence in that Solana and many of the other altcoins are going to hold this level, right? So I continue to maintain the bearish stance. At least in terms of the medium time frame, we're still looking for slightly lower prices. Now, of course, if we see something like that, for example, on the ETH-BTC ratio holding that, maybe something great will happen today and you'll get a reaction off of that zone. But trend comes first, right? Trend comes first. I'm looking at that first and foremost. So here is SUI. All right, there's SUI. You know, you have broken this trend towards the down sloping trend line over here, the white line. I'll make it nice and big for you all to see. There we go. That white line, you've broken that white line. What does this show? Does it show that the downtrend has come to its end and it's over and we're going to V-shape to the moon? Absolutely not. What it does show you, however, is that momentum has slowed down, right? It shows you that the aggressiveness of that downtrend may have slowed down over there, and we need to see a lot more from price action to gain confidence that things are going to continue to rally up. Let's quickly have a look how many touch points we got here. This looks a little bit more favorable than Solana, to be honest. 1, 2, a little bit of a consolidation. Let's give that 3, 4 tests. You know, if you come back into it, that's your 5th test, right? All right, all in 24. When am I going long? I'll let you guys know, especially in the Discord, right? Discord, I always tell you first, and then I'll let you know as well on the shows. It's just if I go long and it's not during a live show, I'll let you know in the Discord first. When am I going long though? Let's answer the question, right? I will attempt a long probably between $68,000 and $72,000, but as a manual trade, I'm not setting a limit order over there. I'm going to monitor in real time as price action comes into that level to assess, you know, the speed of the move, to assess the momentum and how much volatility there is, right? If it's extreme momentum, extreme volatility, it may even go deeper. It may go straight through that level, at which point, that's why I don't want to have a limit order set just resting there, right? Alternatively, I will probably get long if we start to reclaim back around $92,000 to $94,000 and we can maintain multiple closing candles above that level. That will tell me that, you know, the bulls are looking to take back control and we may be ready to run it back up, right? Just so you guys understand, you know, it's much easier for me to make money if the market runs towards the upside. So I don't want you to think that I'm some sort of a now a perma bear. The only people who would ever think that is somebody that's new here, because you guys would know that I longed essentially right at the bottom and we maintained that long all the way through. And we only recently just exited the market a couple of weeks ago, right? So I would prefer for the market to go up, but I'm just listening to the market, right? We're going to do what the market tells us to do. Okay, cool. So we got Sui over there. We still need to see some more work. Let's quickly see what Hype's doing. Okay, parallel channel towards the downside. You know, can I get one more sweep down? This is the only thing we can really utilize to find support. If it did it in the coming days and weeks, you know, $8 to $9 Hype is possible, right? And I don't like the way that it looks. I must be honest with you. Remember, you had this big sharp move towards the downside. How much did this candle fall? This candle fell 12.3% in a single day, right? 12.3% managed to close still strong. And now you've given all of that up. So who's going to step in over here, right? That's the question. I think most of these people will be closing those positions. And the only support we had was that order block that led to the upside move. I don't like double bottoms. I think they're more likely to break than not. And if this does break, again, $8 to $9 is the only TA level that we can use in terms of this down sloping channel. Okay, at least let's have a look at Sonic. So I think we have to look at the Phantom chart, right? It's trading at the same price. You can see over here 4895 on Sonic. Remember, it rebranded from Phantom to Sonic. So let's look at Phantom because we have more price history. You know, could this come all the way back down towards this wick? I think it's really, really possible. If it does, that puts it at around 30 to 35 cents, right? So a lot of rejective candles at the previous month's mid-range, a lot of selling pressure coming in over here, giving up those gains. I won't get too excited on this until it starts to establish better price structure, right? So we got kind of like this expanding megaphone pattern over here, upsloping trend line. Time has reinforced this level. So although it's tested it a lot, I won't necessarily panic, you know, touch point 1, 2, 3, but there's a lot of time in between these levels. So if you come back into that level again, you might actually catch a little bit of a bid over there. We'll reevaluate as it happens, and we'll see what Bitcoin's doing in that moment. I don't know if you guys remember as well, you know, last week I spoke about this. When was this? I made a tweet about it. It was on the 25th of March, so about a week ago, right? We spoke about Archeum for crypto traders and what it means for you guys. I just want to let you know, remember we said that, you know, they ultimately were having their public sale. The public sale started. It was very successful. It was sold out in seconds. I just want to touch on something, right? Have a look at this project, right? Go and search in your own time. Look into it. Remember, we spoke about dark pools, right? Dark pools for DeFi. So the way these guys are changing the game, I think it's very, very interesting. If you know, we do start to get a bit of a run again, I think this is definitely one to put on your watch list. Remember, they stopped front running, right? So think of it like this. Ultimately, if you had a store, right? If you had a store and you wanted to buy 5,000 apples at the Apple store, just hypothetically, and you announced that you came to the Apple store, there's green apples, red apples, pink apples, and all the store clerks are standing there and you said, hey guys, you know what? I'm coming in tomorrow. I'm buying 5,000 apples. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to raise their price, right? So this is ultimately what this project does, is they protect that. Crypto is a double-edged sword. in the fact that it's very, very transparent, right? You can see on the blockchain every single thing that's happening, but that's a double-edged sword because it can also go against you if you're a big player and you're coming in and you want to buy. So they only make the announcement of the buys that through these dark pools, they're essentially hiding your orders and allowing you to fulfill massive orders if you are some sort of a fund or institution. I know there's a lot of you out there who watch the show. Check it out. Go and have a look at Archeum, right? They protect against these things. So if you're a crypto trader with size or you're a fund, have a look at them. I think they're really, really great. Cool. These are they're essentially their partners, right? You can have a look. A lot of reputable sources. They have 𝗪𝗔𝗔𝗪 who's one of the big backers, 𝗪𝗔𝗪𝗪 of Solana, and we know he knows his tech, right? Cool. Let's go into a couple of other things over here. I want to have a look at, there was one or two things I wanted to bring in. Let me just find to see if I have this. Where is that tweet? Give me a second, guys. I had a tweet that I really wanted to show you guys. And I don't know if I have it here. I found it very, very interesting. Let's see. Let's see. Do we have that? I think I've lost the tweet. Okay, I'll have to share it on the 𝗪𝗛𝗪𝗔𝗪 Twitter account. There was something very, very interesting that I found, which may bring liquidity, right? So time will tell. Time will tell. We'll see what the Fed does. Remember, the next major meeting that's coming up for the Fed where they make these decisions is going to be May. Okay, May is the next date. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else that you want to have a look at. Really, Bitcoin is going to drive everything. I think we can bring up ETH very quickly. So ETH losing this long-term trend line over here, you know, really actually even testing that as resistance. So time is going to tell. If you do move back towards these lows over here, I could easily see this breaking. I don't believe in the double bottoms. So, you know, major support if you do see a capitulation for ETH 1500. I think it's worthwhile to at least take one trade, on ETH. If you do see that capitulation into this level, it at the minimum will lead into a bounce towards the upside over there like that, and then you can reevaluate. Okay, just checking the comments, guys. Let me know what happened with my Trump NFT collection. It's still there. I think you can actually see on this side. There it is. There's a card over there hanging on the wall. I still have that. I would only sell these things into, you know, into peak euphoria, into extreme excitement if there was some sort of an altcoin season. Remember, it was a very calculated bet, you know, risking something like, I don't know what it was. It was something like 0.1% of the bankroll on that collection. Okay, cool. What else? What else, guys? Let me know what else. Gun. We can talk about that. Let's go through over here. Let's open this up. Okay, Gunzilla, right? I think that's what you guys want to talk about is Gunzilla. Let's open the chart up. You know, you got a lot of people that's saying that this is a great buy. Personally, I'm going to skip it, right? I'm going to skip it. If the market came into some sort of QE, you move away from QT, QE started to return, great. Remember, things can always go down another 90%. And then another 90% after that, and they can keep just going down, right? So you've got this, it's come down a whole lot over here. Also, on top of that, if you look at the fully diluted valuation versus the circulating supply and total supply, it's showing you that there's still a lot of tokens that are going to be coming into the market. You need to go look at their emission schedule when those tokens are going to be coming out. But preferably, I prefer to take coins that, you know, their circulating supply and total supply are more closely matched so that I'm not going to get tokens rained on top of me, right? This has been essentially the game. You know, a lot of KOLs would have got into these things. What is a KOL? Key opinion leaders, what they call them, or influencers, YouTubers, Twitter experts, etc. And they're probably going to pump this coin at least because they have allocation into it, right? And then what happens? Of course, they sell the tokens and it just bleeds all the way down. So wait for a trend shift. There hasn't been any trend shift. You know, if you look over here on TradingView, let's quickly see what it pulls up for us. So we don't have to pull up the other chart. Look at that. I mean, that's a straight downtrend, guys. Straight downtrend over here. You know, if this can start to reclaim, there it is. Let's mark that off. There we go. If you can start to get back above 0.06577, then maybe things will start to look good, right? So or I wouldn't even say good, but more optimistic. You'll be looking for something like that. Like you need to start to form some high lows and high highs and create a little bit of a rounded bottom. You often see this, by the way. You can create a rounded bottom on these types of coins, and then they do run back towards the top. But I'm not willing to gamble on something like that. Okay, cool. What else? What else have we got over here? Let's see. Quickly checking the comments. Then let me know, guys, if there's anything else that you want. Let me know if you enjoy the shows, if there's anything different that you want me to cover in the future. Please let me know in the comments, especially after the show, because this is live. I can't always see the live comments when the show is finished. Cool. All right, it looks like you guys are right and ready. That is it then from me. Remember, go follow the Whale Trades Twitter account, the Whale Room account over there, and then we're going to be doing a giveaway. If you see the code, you can use that. It will be first come, first serve with a limited amount, but that will get you into Whale Room for free. First month for free. I'll see you all on the next one. Have a great day, everyone, and cheers for now.